In terms of a kind of a practical philosophy, we want the kids to do as much as they can. We want them to repeat things over and over again. Repetition, it's not exciting, but it's a proven method for helping people kind of learn and adapt and adopt new skills. Awesome! Go again, go again. And we want them to be engaged in problem solving. We want them to be put under pressure. So we try and create control situations where they're put under pressure and they've got to solve problems, hopefully using the skills, the technical skills that we've helped them develop. And when I say anything, you know what I'm talking about. Coaching should be a partnership between coach and the participants. And as part of that partnership, there's got to be an agreement, and we use 4 E's, or at least I use 4 E's in my coaching, and that's that both the coach and the participant agree to bring energy, to be enthusiastic, to show emotion in a controlled and reasonable way depending on the environment. And lastly, if we get those first 3 things right, we end up with enjoyment, and that's what we try and get our kids to buy into.
I think it's central to help youngsters become their own coaches, so they can analyse what they're doing, so they don't have to be so dependent upon being coach-fed. And then the other thing is for them to just become more independent. And one of the things I feel it's our responsibility to do is to help youngsters become more independent and not dependent on coaches and parents so much. So we have to have quite a lot of coach ed and parent ed on helping both parents and coaches understand that youngsters need to develop their own interdependence rather than being totally dependent on coaches and parents. So
I think if I had my time again, I'd be happy with the way I've developed as a coach. And the one thing I'd want to know more about is probably more science behind my coaching, so a bit more evidence. Do quite a lot based on beliefs, which is my past, what I know, what I understand. But I think all the time things are changing, and it's just keeping up with current science. You do your coaching courses, you have your experience, and from that, that's the way you coach. So they're your beliefs. And there's another way of coaching which says, well, we only do this if we've got the evidence that it works. And I think coaching is a bit of a cross between an art and a science. It's not just science. I think it's a human activity. It's about communication. It's about working together. So, but I do think that there's more and more evidence-based coaching out there, more science to help support coaches do their job. So I just think that perhaps it would help me if I had more science behind the coaching that I do. The older I get, the more I realise I know less, if you understand that. I used to think years ago that I knew everything. And now I realise I don't know everything at all. Now I realise that there's an awful lot more to learn. And in fact, my way isn't the only way. Learning from other people is really important.
So interestingly with that, one of the things we've done in terms of trying to help the sailor become their own coach is to help them understand another part of the learning process, which is just the technical side of the activity. So they understand that the nuts and bolts are the components of the activity. Then they'll often do that on their own. We'll bring them together in a small group so that they'll shape it in the context of a few people. Then we'll put it under pressure, and I know that happens in most sports. Then we put it under a lot of pressure. We'll test it under pressure, and then of course if it's not working under pressure, we'll take it all the way back to the component stage, rebuild it, and then hopefully what we're trying to do is to get to the point when the activity is automatic, and that's what we're hopefully trying to achieve. What we were using that as a coaching tool. Now it's actually the children are using that tool themselves, so they know that actually I'm not coping with this, so I'm so far out of my comfort zone right now. I need to stop what I'm doing, press the reset button, and go back to the component, find out what's not working quite right, and then move back up the chain. And in getting the youngsters to do that helps in their self-awareness immensely.
Oh, massively. When I was an inexperienced coach, I was very focused on the session and the activities that built up to make the session. The thing that I'd forgotten was, if I'm a kid coming to these sessions, is the coach serving up what I want? Because unless we give them what they want initially, you never get a chance to give them what you as the coach think that they might need. And I think it's a very complicated equation. And if you meet their initial needs and help them to fall in love with the game, then I've got a better chance of them coming back and improving them over a longer period of time. I'd gone straight into the football bit, and just because you were a kid, that really didn't matter. So it was a real turning point in the way that I approached most of my interactions with children. When I'm planning now, or when I'm working with kids, it is about the kids. And football just happens to be the vehicle that we use.
I would like to think that I guide the children into the way they want to learn, and certainly guide them into the way they want to progress. I think a little bit of it is guided by me, but I think some of it is self-discovery, in the hope that they're going to build on their own knowledge and the skills base, and because of their own enjoyment and the motivation that they want to carry on performing and they want to carry on doing something. That to me is more self-discovery, in terms of changing sometimes the activity, changing the vocabulary, changing the way that you speak to the students, so that they find their own level in which to work at.